up box! Thank God for men of reason.
What if I told you that one of the most terrifying Cenobites in Hellraiser wasn't created, but born into hell itself? That before the chains, the mutilation, and the transformation, she was a demon princess with her own army of twisted followers and a mission to corrupt humanity from the shadows. Meet Angelique, the seductive, calculating, and brutally powerful daughter of Leviathan. Her story spans centuries, from ritualistic sacrifices in 18th century France to a final showdown in a space station orbiting Earth. And she's not just another servant of hell. She used to rule it. Welcome back to your Nerdist Show. I'm your host, Spoiler Master. In this video, we're diving deep into Angelique's shocking origins, her gruesome anatomy, and the twisted journey that led her from free demon to enslaved Cenobite. Whether you're a longtime Hellraiser fan or just curious about the lore behind the Lament configuration, you're in for one hell of a ride. Let's open the box. The Demon Princess of Hell, Angelique's mysterious origins. Long before chains ripped through flesh and puzzles opened the gates to damnation, there was Angelique, the Demon Princess of Hell. Her story begins not as a mutilated Cenobite, but something even ancient and powerful. She wasn't created in hell like the others, she was born of it. As the daughter of Leviathan, the godlike entity that governs the labyrinth, Angelique was royalty in the hierarchy of darkness. She didn't need chains or hooks to command authority. Her presence alone was enough to bend lesser demons to her will. Angelique was first brought to Earth in the 18th century through a ritual performed by the depraved aristocrat Duc de Lille. De Lille had commissioned the infamous toymaker Philippe Le Marchand to construct the Lament configuration, a puzzle box that would serve as a portal between Earth and Hell. Once the box was complete, de Lille sacrificed a young woman, using her body as a vessel to summon Angelique into the world of the living. The ritual didn't just open the gates, it bound Angelique to flesh, giving her both physical form and purpose.
I know what's in your heart, John.
The curse of Le Marchand's bloodline. While de Lille may have thought he could control Angelique, hell has never been known to share its power. Together with his apprentice, Jacques, Angelique turned on her summoner, ending de Lille's life in a scene dripping with lust and betrayal. Jacques, having helped summon her, temporarily gained dominion over Angelique. But as history has shown, such power is always borrowed and always fatal. What followed next was originally part of an alternate script, but it's too wild to ignore. In this version, Jacques and Angelique lured 8 gamblers to a twisted party where they were made to solve the Lament configuration. One by one, the gamblers were transformed into clown-themed pseudo-Cenobites, grotesque caricatures with a taste for theatrics. These Cenobites served Angelique, even murdering Auguste, Le Marchand's friend, and using his skin as a drum in their unholy clown act. Although this subplot didn't make it to the final cut, it gives us a glimpse into a version of Angelique who reveled in sadism and chaos. A demon princess throwing her own infernal circus? That's some deliciously dark material. Back in the finalized timeline, Le Marchand became haunted by the horrors he unleashed. Urged by Auguste before his death, Le Marchand began work on the Elysium configuration, a new box, not to open Hell's door, but to close it forever. In an attempt to retrieve the original puzzle box and undo the damage, Le Marchand returned to the mansion, but he never made it out alive. Angelique killed him, unknowingly leaving behind his pregnant wife who would carry on the Le Marchand bloodline. 2 centuries later, Angelique returns to the game. 200 years passed, and Angelique remained bound to Earth, kept alive unnaturally by Jacques, who used her for his own desires. But when she discovered the Le Marchand bloodline still existed, this time through an architect named John Merchant, Angelique had no more use for Jacques. His refusal to accompany her to America sealed his fate. She tore him apart without a second thought and made her way to New York. There, she encountered something unexpected. John Merchant had unintentionally designed a skyscraper that mimicked the layout of the Lemon configuration, creating a massive potential gateway to hell. Angelique, thrilled by this discovery, knew she couldn't achieve her goal alone, so she summoned aid from the labyrinth. But what emerged was not what she expected.
Ordered since your time, princess.
Pinhead enters the scene and changes the rules. When Angelique summoned help, she was clearly expecting her loyal clown Cenobites, or something familiar from the old Order of Hell. Instead, she got Pinhead, cold, commanding, and entirely bound by a new form of infernal law. Pinhead didn't recognize Angelique as an equal. In fact, he barely tolerated her independence. What followed was a power shift. Pinhead, seeing Angelique's free will as a threat to Hell's new order, transformed her into a proper Cenobite. Using the flesh she inhabited, he mutilated her form to reflect her new, bound status, no longer a free agent of Leviathan's court, but a servant under Pinhead's command. Despite their tension, the two formed an uneasy alliance. Together with the Siamese twin Cenobites and the feral Chatterer beast, they began manipulating John Merchant into completing the skyscraper, now reimagined as a permanent gateway between dimensions. To force his cooperation, they kidnapped his son and threatened his family. But John wasn't about to fold. He attempted to trap the Cenobites using the building's layout, turning their weapon against them. Unfortunately, his plan backfired. Pinhead decapitated him, and all 5 Cenobites were dragged back into hell. Yet again, Angelique failed. But the bloodlines survived, and that would prove to be Hell's undoing. Fate of Angelique. Fast forward to the year 2127, the Lemarchand bloodline lives on in Dr. Paul Merchant, a space engineer who has built the ultimate tool of vengeance, the Elysium configuration, hidden within a space station. Designed to seal the gates of hell forever, this final box is Lemarchand's ultimate redemption. But in trying to activate the station, Paul unwittingly releases the Cenobites, Pinhead, the twins, Chatterer beast, and Angelique once again. This time, Angelique is no longer the seductive demoness of the 18th century. She is a full-fledged Cenobite, locked in her grotesque, mutilated form. Bald, with her scalp tealed back and clamped to her shoulders, cables pull her face open, exposing her skull and carving her into something horrific and otherworldly. Despite her power, she and the others are no match for the Elysium configuration once it is fully activated. Paul and Rimmer, the last 2 survivors, escape just in time. The station transforms into the box and activates its function, cutting off the pathway between Earth and Hell. Angelique and her infernal kin are either destroyed or imprisoned in the labyrinth forever. Anatomy of a Demon, Angelique's Cenobite form. Angelique's final form as a Cenobite is among the most visually unsettling in the entire franchise. Her head is shaved bald, a staple of the Cenobite aesthetic, and her scalp is sliced open and pinned back by metal clamps and hooks. The design reveals the top of her skull, a surgical exposure that reflects the cerebral horrors she once orchestrated. Unlike other Cenobites who wear heavy robes or priest-like garments, Angelique's attire is overtly sexualized, a nod to her origins as a demon of seduction and manipulation. She wears a tight black leather dress with exposed midriff and thighs, and long gloves that reach to her elbows. Her body is a contradiction, grotesque mutilation meeting elegance, horror stitched to allure. Hooks pierce her chest and abdomen, constantly pulling her flesh in directions that defy comfort. It's a painful balance between form and function, perfectly representing the Cenobite ethos, beauty through suffering, pleasure through pain.
Finish it.
Behind the name and symbolism, there's something darkly poetic about her name. Angelique, French for angelic, stands in cruel contrast to her infernal nature. She is, in every sense, the anti-angel. Her existence is rooted in destruction, betrayal, and chaos. Her very name mocks the concept of salvation. And yet, of all the Cenobites, Angelique is the only one who shows signs of individualism and emotion. Even after her transformation, there are moments where her gaze lingers, where she seems to remember who she once was. It's this internal conflict, the tension between the demon she was born as and the servant she was made to be, that makes her one of the most complex figures in the Hellraiser mythology.
You have such pliant fingers. I want them to play.
Our nerdy thoughts. Angelique represents the evolution of Hell's forces over time. She was born from ritual, ruled through temptation, and was later broken into servitude under a changing regime. Her story reflects the shift from old-school occultism to industrial, emotionless torment. In many ways, she's the bridge between Leviathan's ancient ways and Pinhead's rigid order. Even though she was ultimately defeated, Angelique remains one of the most memorable Cenobites in the franchise. Her origins as a demon princess, her rivalry with Pinhead, and her seductive tragic descent into mutilation set her apart from the others. She wasn't just another soul claimed by the box. She was hell long before it had rules. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this deep dive into Angelique's dark history and anatomy, hit that like button and subscribe for more explorations into Hellraiser lore and horror mythology. Got a favorite Cenobite or theory about Angelique's true nature? Drop it in the comments. We want to hear from you. Hell is always watching.
No, what the heck, I'll laugh anyway.